Then, a few hours later, Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight drive down Flamingo Road to Club 662, where Tupac is scheduled to perform a concert. Then 2.5 hours later, after Tupac and Suge engaged in the beating of Orlando Anderson, they are gunned down. Tupac is gunned down in a drive-by shooting from a white Cadillac in an act of revenge. During those 2.5 hours, you will learn that the defendant was escalating and planning the retribution for the beating of his beloved nephew. Now, let's be clear. Duane Davis did not pull the trigger. But what he did do was plan the retaliation for the beating of his nephew. You will learn that Duane Davis got the gun. You will learn that he got into a white Cadillac. You will learn when the opportunity presented itself for retribution, Duane Davis made sure that the shooters were armed and ready to execute their revenge. And remarkably, you will learn that from Duane Davis himself. And Duane Davis himself, Keffe D, is in the front passenger side. And this is how Duane Davis explains the murder of Tupac Shakur.
Yeah. He's a little bit short right there. Then we came up Harlem at the Long Bay Boulevard. And shit. Here they come in that BMW in the J corner. And brawls, Tupac! Tupac! I was like, there you go. Made the U-turn. We wasn't supposed to make it. Just wanted the U-turn. They was in the middle lane. We just pulled up on the side and checked every car to see where they was.
So what directed your attention to him was some girl shouting at Tupac?
Tupac! He gave his son away. Otherwise, they would have gone away. He all had nothing quick. You know how they do. They was he gone.
You did a U-turn, so then you pull alongside of it. You guys were in the car. Have you already handed him the gun at this point, or at what point did you hand him the gun?
I thought he was going to pull on my side. You know, that's one of them neck going to the for him. You know, he pulled on.
The fact that Orlando Anderson was beaten and that his plan was to handle it in Compton had Tupac survived. Then in 2008, the interview of clips we've heard today, in a secret interview with the federal task force, Davis admits to his role in the murder of Tupac Shakur. And we do need to talk a little bit about this 2008 federal task force. Because what this task force is investigating is not the murder of Tupac Shakur. What this task force is investigating is another rapper's murder. A rapper by the name of Christopher Wallace. Somebody who is known as Biggie Smalls, so the notorious B.I.G. Christopher Wallace got murdered 6 months after Tupac Shakur was killed. And there was some allegation that the LAPD might have been involved. So a federal task force was formed to determine what happened to Christopher Wallace. And the interesting thing about the murder of Christopher Wallace is that Christopher Wallace is killed leaving a party in LA. Also at that party, Duane Davis. Christopher Wallace there was a suspect vehicle that involved a Chevy SS Impala, and Duane Davis happened to own a Chevy SS Impala. Now, as a result of that, the task force decides, well, let's look at Duane Davis. And the thing we know about Duane Davis is that he trafficked narcotics. And so they were able, through a CI and an undercover, to have a drug transaction with Duane Davis. And as a result, Duane Davis now has a case, a big trafficking case. And so the federal task force approaches Duane Davis and his attorney, and they say, hey, look, we want information regarding the murder of Christopher Wallace. That is what we are trying to investigate. And what Duane Davis says is, I don't have any information about that thing, but I can tell you about what we did. I can tell you about Tupac. And that's what he does. He tells a federal task force that that's about his involvement, what you've heard. his orchestration of the murder of Tupac Shakur. That secret conversation, that proffer, was secretly reported. And in the 2017 public interview, he's a little evasive, but he admits to being the boss. He admits to being in the white Cadillac. And he admits to be part of the murder of Tupac Shakur. And when he says he's the only person that can tell what happened, he's right. Because by 2017, Terrence Brown is deceased. DeAndre Smith is deceased. Orlando Baby Lane Anderson is deceased. Terrence Brown was murdered in an unrelated incident. Orlando Anderson was murdered in an unrelated incident. And DeAndre Smith died from health issues. Remarkably, in 2019, Duane Davis then decides he's going to publish his own book. And with regards to the book, it is certainly a lot of self-aggrandizement. But again, the core remains. He was mad about the beating of Orlando Anderson, his nephew. He was in Las Vegas. He got the gun. He was in the white Cadillac, and he handed the gun to the shooters. And what you'll notice is a constant thing that always goes through these statements is Duane Davis's visceral anger at Tupac Shakur for putting hands on his nephew. In the book, he says, "Them jumping on my nephew gave us the ultimate green light to do something to their ass." Then, Duane Davis decides that he's going to do public interviews regarding his role in the murder of Tupac Shakur. It did it in 2.5 hours. He took care of what he thought was the proper response. And 28 years later, he still is angry about what Tupac did. On September 7th, 1996, Tupac Shakur publicly, on camera, participated in a humiliating beating of Duane Davis's nephew, Orlando Anderson. Duane Davis knew that in his world, that required a response. And over the years, in private interviews, in public statements, and even in private calls, Duane Davis has repeatedly told us, over and over again, about the anger he felt and his own role in the revenge drive-by shooting of Tupac Shakur. And now, nearly 30 years later, we're going to ask you to finally hold Duane Davis accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Mr. Sanft, do you wish to give your opening statement at this time?
And in the meantime, Detective Mogg retires. He now becomes Mr. Mogg. And Mr. Mogg goes to the grand jury. And in the grand jury, it's a secret proceeding. We're not there. The defense, isn't sitting like we are here. It's just the prosecutors. There's a panel of people called the grand jurors, and you have people come up and they testify under oath. And there's really no way for the defense to challenge any of it because it's done in secret. We don't really know about it. But in this particular case, Mr. Mogg is sworn to testify truthfully. And you know what Mr. Mogg does? He just reads pages of the book into the record. He doesn't do any more in terms of an investigation than read pages of a book into the record. He never documents in any of his efforts any verification of the book before he reads it into the record. He walks up, gets on the stand, and reads the book as if it's the gospel truth. And that's what he does. He treats that book like it's fact. Now, what you're going to find out about Mr. Mogg is that he never wrote a report. So when he took over the case in 2017, all the way up until when he retired in 2023 and was in front of the grand jury, he never wrote a report. Not one time. Not like Detective Becker, and not like Detective Long, and not like any other police officer who does their job. This man never writes a report. In fact, what happens is he transitions, right? He's a Metro detective, he retires, and then he gets a job working as an independent contractor for the district attorney's office as an investigator. And as an investigator, he doesn't have any police power. He continues to work as a lead detective on this case. Even though the procedure is you hand your file and your officer's report to the next detective in line. That's how this works. But he keeps the file for himself and he starts billing against the file after he retires as a detective in Metro. Because now he's an independent contractor. That's important to know. Why is that important? Because what the evidence is going to show you is that he backloaded his work. And when he finally writes a report, it's not an officer's report, it's an investigative report that spans from 2018 to current, and we just received it about 5 weeks ago. The importance of capturing everything you do, the accuracy that you would need to be able to be in court on a murder case, not some type of, college paper that you forgot to do and then the last second just put something together and, get it out the door. Mr. Mogg does not do any of that. That's going to be important later for you to consider. Because according to that report that he submitted 5 weeks ago or so, he never verified the book. According to that report, he never investigated any of the alternate theories that were out there, and you're going to hear about those alternate theories. There are people who have developed over time answers to the question, who did this and why? He never looked into any of it. Which I think, at the end of the day, don't you want to see what's out there to help you with your investigation? And according to his work, his report, he did more on the case after he became an investigator than he did before when he was a detective. What I'm going to tell you right now is what you're going to find when you listen to all the evidence that his work was biased, sloppy, and incomplete. When you look at this relevant timeline again, and you see the length of time, ask yourself, what facts do they have to even put Keffe D in a car in Las Vegas on September 7th, 1996? What facts? When you look at the video that happened at the MGM, look for him. Try to find him in there. Try to find any of the other individuals. Remember, he said there's 3 individuals in the car with him and Orlando Anderson. Orlando's in the video because he's getting beat up. Find any of those other individuals on the videos of the MGM. Look for evidence that shows that Keffe D was even in Las Vegas on the night of the fight. Receipts, credit cards, a picture of him standing next to somebody else, maybe watching the fight from another casino. Something. Give me something. In the book, you're going to learn that Keffe says that he was at the fight. He was sitting on the second row. He was sitting with all the celebrities, and he's dressed in his finest gear. There's not one iota of proof that he was ever at that fight. But you know who does show an iota of proof that he was at the fight? Suge Knight. Suge Knight was raided, and at some point, there is a ticket stub to that fight, the Tyson versus Selden fight with Suge Knight's possession. Because he went to the fight. And you would think, a fight like this, you want to show everyone that you were at the fight. There's no evidence at all that man was even at the fight. When we take fact versus fiction, really at the end of the day, what you're going to hear from witnesses that will testify to this is that Keffe D was known to do this. That's the testimony you're going to hear in this case. That's what you're going to hear about that man right there. And so you have to ask yourself the question. If I just say things, is that going to end up being one of those things where I'm going to be hemmed up for a murder if I just keep repeating a fiction? If I keep repeating that? The answer is no. You have to corroborate everything I say in order for it to be true. Otherwise, it's just that. Or fiction. And at the end of all the time we spend together, what you're going to find is that the state cannot prove to you beyond reasonable doubt the claim that Keffe had anything to do with a first-degree murder with use of deadly weapon. There's no facts to that matter. Thank you.
We'll fast forward about, say, 10 minutes later. Something unusual happened. What happened?
We were continuing riding on the strip area. We were heading southbound on the boulevard, and we heard some calls come out about a vehicle. Can't remember exactly what was said, but heading up towards Harmon, we saw the vehicle that had been described in the median of the road. It looked like it had ran up on the median and was stopped there in the middle of the boulevard.
What do you do when you see that?
We approached the vehicle.
Is it you and Mr. Goldgart? Or Officer Goldgart?
Officer Goldgart and I.
And do you see either of the two people that you saw earlier in the vehicle?
Yes.
And who is that?
Marion Knight was outside of the vehicle, walking around, talking, and Tupac Shakur was being removed by EMS people.
As Marion Knight is talking, do you recall anything he's saying?
He was telling us to take care of Tupac Shakur. He had Marion Knight had a chunk of shrapnel or something in his head. He was bleeding, and when I wanted to talk to him, he was adamant that we needed to go and care for Mr. Shakur.
Did you then go to Mr. Shakur?
Yes, I did.
And then what do you do? What's your responsibility as it relates to Mr. Shakur as the EMT is working on?
I was trying to talk to him to find out what had happened. Excuse me. Gather information to see who had fired at them.
Did you wind up riding anywhere with Mr. Shakur?
Yes, I rode to the hospital in
And
the ambulance with him.
During that time period, between the time you get to Mr. Shakur and the time period he gets taken into the hospital, are you able to have any sort of communication with Mr. Shakur?
He was still talking, and I was trying to convince him to tell me the name of whoever his assailants were.
And did he ever respond?
Yes, he responded, no, we'll take care of it. So, something like that.
No, we'll take care
We'll
of
take
it.
care of it, something like that.
And that's the only thing you were able to gather from Mr. Shakur?
Yeah, I couldn't get him to talk to me any further than that. That was repeated.
They're in the lane next over, a car, or maybe two in front.
Yeah, exactly.
Then, while you're waiting at that light, does anything happen?
Well, me and Shalane were going to change seats. I was going to drive. I'm the more aggressive driver, and after what, she was nervous with them coming back in front of us so much. So me and Shalane were literally head down, taking our seatbelts off when we heard the gunshots, when all hell broke loose.
And to be fair, you didn't see those gunshots.
No.
And then what do you do when you hear the gunshots?
I freak out, and I scream, what the hell? I said, what the hell? And then Shalane is kind of half up, half down, and so I grab her head to bring her down. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And then she has her hand on the wheel, but she's like frozen. And so I don't remember how many gunshots there were, honestly. But I know I put the car on drive, and I told her to get the hell out of there and drive. And so I may even grab the wheel. Like I said, I'm very aggressive. And from that, she tried to drive off.
And then, did you see the color of the vehicle?
Yeah, so we almost hit the car. When we were trying to drive off, there was a car in the lane, that last lane, that was the turning lane. And it was a white four-door. Can't tell you what combination. It was like white-ish. And we almost hit it when we were trying to get away.
Were you trying to pursue the white car?
Hell no. Just want to get away.
And then where did you guys go? Did you turn off? Did you follow them?
In fact, I think the one time he was supposed to come in, he didn't show up. And then the night he did, I think it was 3 nights after, it would be in the report. When he did arrive, he showed up with David Kenner, David Chesnoff, and George Kalisis, who were all 3 attorneys, who were his representatives, which we thought was weird because Suge Knight was a victim. And I think Reggie Wright Jr. might have been out in the lobby waiting. And then that's when we were finally able to conduct a taped interview of Suge Knight with his 3 attorneys present.
And what were your impressions from that interview?
Suge Knight was not the Suge Knight I expected. Everything, we had done a lot of research in the short time we had been involved, and Suge Knight was not a very timid person in the previous interviews we had seen of him. He was a very boisterous, in charge kind of guy. He was very timid, and to us, his interview was very practiced, and he was very timid, and I thought he lied to us. He just didn't know anything.
Your impression was he was withholding information about what happened?
He just basically said he didn't know anything. He couldn't recognize shelves where a lot of the case files were stored. And once this case continued, and the nature of who the victim was, especially when he passed away, there seemed to be a lot of interest in it, outside interest, especially with the media. And I became concerned about it, so I started locking my case files in my desk because I didn't want them to be available. Because I had left things on my desk, and a couple times I had found things different than when I left them, and it just bothered me. So that's why I locked them up.
Did there come a point in time when you started saving your reports to a different type of medium than just the computer?
Well, yes, there were some reports that I ended up not sending off to records because I was putting them on what we had then was called a floppy disk. I guess today they've got a lot different technology, but back then we had a thing called a floppy disk. Because we actually did some reports early on that I still don't know where they are. We did a pen register early on that I guess nobody can find. We went looking for a vehicle on another guy that nobody can find. There's just a lot of things that disappeared. And some of them are reports that were before I even put them on floppy disk. So yes, I had some concerns.
Were you aware that some Metro employees sold a Polaroid of Tupac on the autopsy table to the Daily Mail?
I was after we did the autopsy, I was outside the autopsy room. I cannot say that I saw a person take the Polaroid photo of Tupac Shakur's body. I saw somebody walk into the autopsy room where his body was at with a Polaroid. And then I don't remember how long after that a book was published by a Kathy Scott that it was a Polaroid photo of his body. It wasn't one of our photos of his body from the autopsy. It was quite obvious it was a Polaroid photo afterwards because it was not a photograph that we took. We didn't take those kind of photographs at an autopsy. We had no reason to.
But needless to say, you yourself had concerns about the security of the information as it relates to the investigation.
Yes.
Now going kind of fast forward, but in November of '96, well, let me ask you this. Of all the people you interviewed in that car behind, was there anybody who said he thought he could make an identification?
Afufula, from what I remember, thought he could ID someone possibly. I thought it was the driver, but I'd have to look at the report. He's the only person that thought they could possibly identify someone. I don't recall anybody saying they could ID the shooter. Frank Alexander, Malcolm Greenidge, and Qatari Cox were more or less more of the dark arm kind of thing.
When in November of '96 in New Jersey, does something happen to Yafula?
Unfortunately, Yafufula was murdered. We were notified, I want to say it was Orange, New Jersey, somewhere in that area. We learned that Yafufula had been murdered. This was after we had made several attempts, because Death Row Records, David Kenner, who was the attorney, they had told us that if we needed to talk to anybody from the Outlaws or anybody, that we needed to contact them to make arrangements. And somewhere in the reports that there's several attempts were made to try to get a hold of Yafufula, and we got the runaround on that. So
ultimately, were you left with any avenue to further your investigation?
The only thing we ever got was we ended up the revocation hearing for Suge Knight, where I ended up providing a videotape of from the MGM for the DA's office down there.
Let me ask you about that. So, Suge Knight, at the time that he is involved at this fight with Orlando Anderson at the MGM, he is on probation, both federal and state probation in California, correct?
That's the way it was presented to us, yes.
And at that particular hearing, did he call a witness in his defense to claim he was trying to stop the fight?
Orlando Anderson was subpoenaed as a witness for Suge Knight, yes.
And did he testify that Suge Knight was trying to help him, not hurt him?
Orlando Anderson, apparently, because I wasn't allowed in the courtroom, but apparently Orlando Anderson testified in court that day that Suge Knight was trying.
In terms of your investigation, did you ever have to deal directly with Reggie Wright Jr.?
The only face-to-face, and it would have been brief, would have been at Compton when he brought Malcolm Greenidge in, but I don't think there was any talk. And the reason we probably didn't talk to him was because his dad was a lieutenant at Compton.
And what did that mean to you as to why you wouldn't talk to him because his dad was a lieutenant?
Right, wrong, or indifferent, our feeling was, well, if your dad's a Compton lieutenant and you're the head of Death Row Records security, I just have a problem with the communications line there. Maybe I'm being distrustful on that. I just worry about what's being said between the two parties.
Were you aware during the course of your investigation that Reggie Wright Jr. instructed his people to lie to you?
I was told later on by Frank Alexander that he said that, yes.
In addition to that, we had talked a little bit about the video footage that was captured at the MGM. Did you at any point when you looked at that video footage observe or see Duane Davis, Keffe D in that surveillance video?
No.
And then finally, your recollection is, so you wake up in the morning, you get the call, you arrive on scene, and when you get there, you had said, and this might be an old Nevada thing, but everyone skedaddled before I got there. You remember saying something like that?
Okay.
Did you, during that time period, ever observe a white Cadillac sitting there waiting for somebody inside to talk to either yourself or any other police officers about what happened at the scene?
No.
And then finally, you had mentioned a little bit about Suge Knight, and you had said that you believed that he was timid or afraid when he showed up with 3 attorneys to talk to you.
Yeah, I think he was rather timid, yes.
Sure. And it would be fair to say, of course, that you don't know why he was timid, right? I mean, he's walking in with 3 attorneys. I mean, is he worried that he's going to get caught doing something wrong, or is he there because he's worried about something else? You don't know, right?
I don't know why he was. It's just I'm sitting there thinking, one, why the victim showing up with 3 attorneys? That was just an odd thing to me.
Right. Thank you.
That's my understanding, yes, sir.
Did you have information as to a suspect vehicle that you originally received?
That's correct. We received from Aqua Dark newer Chevrolet S 4-door. It had very fancy rims on it. It was last seen going north on Fairfax and then eastbound on Wilshire Boulevard.
So I think what you just said was was a newer model Chevy Impala SS that was dark in color. Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct.
And the race of your potential suspect, how was that identified to you?
Yes, it's a male black.
During the course of your investigation, did you receive information that a person by the name of Duane Davis might be a suspect in this homicide?
Yes, we did.
Did you receive information that he potentially had a motive over money owed to him?
Yes, from several sources, we'd heard that there was a dispute between Mr. Davis and Tupac's organization.
All right.
And ultimately, did you learn that Mr. Davis lived at a residence at 1524 California?
Yes.
Did you also learn that he had driven or received a citation driving a black Chevy Impala SS?
Objection, Your Honor, lady.
Can I have the parties approach real quick? All right, so the parties to approach the presence of the jury.
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Before we go back to Mr. Miller's testimony, I did want to admonish you as follows. Neither the court nor the LAPD believe at this point that Mr. Davis was involved in the death of Mr. Wallace. I want that to be clear. Going back to you, Mr. DiGiacomo, you may proceed with Mr. Miller.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
So you received information that Duane Davis could potentially be your suspect. Is that accurate? I think that's where we left off.
That's correct.
And you also receive information that potentially Mr. Davis feels like he's owed money by either Mr. Wallace or Puffy Combs' Bad Boy Records. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
You also learn that
Or more.
All right. And once again, did it help you solve the murder of Biggie Smalls?
No.
And fair to say, though, even though we've been talking about Mr. Duane Davis as somebody that was a potential target for your investigation, ultimately, at the end of the day, he was never charged with the murder of Biggie Smalls, right?
That's correct.
Now, in addition to that, fair to say that in your court,